Oh my god. It's almost kind of like a safe place. Sometimes. Oh. Oh my god, something's happening. Oh my god, is this how the bodies get through? Oh. It is. Oh, score. Oh, it's a stranger's theme. Oh. I thought it was going to be the stranger, given the theme. Alpha and Omega. How fitting. The beginning and the end. For the final episode of the season. It's that ear ringing again. Oh, wow. Just like episode 1. Oh, wow. It's almost exactly the carbon copy of that scene. Oh, yes! Whoa, whoa. This is the moment. This is the moment. It's the same thing, my dude.
Ich wusste nicht, dass sich das Leben nimmt.
Aber du hättest Mickey retten können.
Egal wie unnormal und wie seltsam sie uns erscheinen, aus einem Grund passieren. Wer sind wir, Gott zu spielen?
Yeah, certainly a common theme.
Ist die Vergangenheit. Wer weiß, was die Zukunft bringt.
Ich will einfach nur, dass alles
Some might know. Jonas, my dude, this is the normal. Great cut.
Ich habe als Kind von nichts anderem geträumt, als Zauberer zu werden. Aber das, was ich zaubern will, ist unmöglich.
Und was soll das sein?
Go back home.
Endlich aufzuwachen.
Whoa.
Vielleicht bin ich beides.
Haha.
Mein Name ist Egon Tiedemann. Vielleicht fangen wir einfach mal damit an, dass Sie mir Ihren Namen verraten.
Tiedemann.
Oh my god.
Egon, ja, natürlich. My only aim is to take many lives. The more, the better I feel.
Das ist einfach so passiert. Ich wollte wirklich... Was wolltest du nicht?
Ah.
Mich sitzen lassen? Mich anlügen? Mit meiner Freundin rummachen?
Lugen.
Du bist ein krankes Stück Scheiße.
Hey, man, come on. Hey. Yeah, that was a low blow.
Als könnte man den Beginn und das Ende
Haha.
gleichzeitig betrachten.
Warum haben Sie sich entschlossen, mir doch zu helfen?
This should be interesting. Score, man.
Warum entscheiden wir uns für das eine und gegen das andere? Wie es ist in der Zukunft?
Ich hoffe, morgen schon anders als heute.
I don't know, man. Ah, spotted himself.
Kann ich Ihnen
But he doesn't know it yet.
Er nutzt sich aus. Alles, was er verspricht, sind Lügen. Er ist nicht auserwählt. Du bist nicht auserwählt. Er will die Welt nicht vor dem Bösen retten. Er ist das Böse.
Yeah.
Mach dir keine Sorgen, es wird alles gut, Mama.
Jonas?
Alles, was sie gesagt hat, ist in den letzten 8 Tagen passiert. Genauso, wie es hier steht.
Claudia gave them the book then, okay.
Warum sind dann die Hälfte der Seiten rausgerissen?
Interesting.
Vor Jahren, ich war noch ein kleiner Junge, kam ein Fremder zu uns.
Stranger, you say?
Er sah aus, als wäre er im Krieg gewesen.
I know someone who looks like that.
In seinen Augen war diese Traurigkeit.
Ja, ja.
Manchmal sieht bei denen, die sterben wollen, aber das Leben lässt sie nicht.
Someone who's been through hell?
Ein ewig dauerndes Wunder des einen.
The one. Go on, Ines. Go on.
Wissen Sie, ich habe mich entschieden, nicht mehr.
Ah, there it is.
Ich mag ihn auch.
Welcher Tag ist heute? Ich hole jemanden zurück von den Toten.
Whoa.
Wie soll das gehen?
Nein, du musst sie holen, wenn sie noch jünger sind.
Okay, yeah. He's trying to bring Mikkel back. Oh, it's really similar to a shot from Blade Runner 2049. Oh! That's insane. Kind of like Mikkel's school photo, class photo, right? Ah, look at this. Certainly looks like the stranger from this angle, right? But Mikkel ends up staying, man. That's a given, so...
Du brauchst keine Angst zu haben.
Hey, hey, was soll das? Was ist das hier? Warum haben sie mich eingesperrt?
He's been through this, right?
Das war nicht ich.
Wow.
Das war Noah.
Wer sind sie?
Weißt du das nicht?
This is it. I'm about to get it.
Der Brief. Du hast ihn verbrannt. Und trotzdem existiert er noch.
Indeed.
Du wirst diesen
Wow, look
Brief
at
fast
this.
33 Jahre bei dir tragen, bevor du ihn weitergeben wirst. Ich bin du.
Oh, there it is.
Mein Name ist Jonas Kahn.
Official confirmation.
Ich habe dir diesen Brief geschickt. Alles, was du erlebst, habe ich bereits erlebt.
Yeah, he's been on the other end. But he gets out of the situation.
Frei, aber das sind wir nicht. Wir folgen dem immer gleichen Pfad. Wieder und wieder und wieder.
Das ist verrückt! Ich will das Mikkel zurück. Ich will, dass es wieder normal ist. Ich will, dass der ganze kranke Scheiß aufhört!
Das willst du immer noch. 33 Jahre später. Ich will das immer noch. Ich habe Dinge gesehen, die kein Mensch jemals sehen sollte.
I believe you. It looked like that back in episode 2. The first time I saw him. Oh my god. Oh, it's gotta be Helga. I have to stop, he said. How the hell did he get access to a car, man? That's the accident they were talking about. But of course he survives. But did our other Helga survive this? That's the big question now.
Ältere Jonas wird das Loch zerstören, aber was nicht weiß, ist, dass der Auslöser dafür sein wird, dass es überhaupt existiert.
Oh, there it is. Predestination paradox.
In seiner nutzlosen Maschine ist nicht dafür da, das Loch für immer zu vernichten. Es ist dafür da, es überhaupt stehen zu lassen. Denkt, sei der Erlöser. Aber Claudia hat ihn belogen. Die meisten Menschen sind nur Bauern auf einem Schachbrett.
Kind of like how he's using Helga.
Die leben nur dazu da, geopfert zu werden für ein höheres Ziel. Draußen gibt es zwei Gruppen, die um die Vorherrschaft und das Reisen durch die Zeit kämpfen. Licht und Schatten.
There's been mention of that.
Vergiss das nicht.
Is that right?
Wenn manches, was wir tun, von dunkler Natur ist. Wir haben alles Menschliche verloren. Die gehören zum Schatten. Deine Großmutter Claudia, die gehört zum Schatten.
This kind of reminds me of the school play. I'll get to that in the post-episode portion. Another copy.
Unendliches Spielfeld.
Keys and all the cards.
Keys and the cards.
Maybe I can carve out the living in the cold. Another man again, and have a quiet life. He fade. So the hunter is now the hunted.
The hunter is now the hunted.
Past voices call my name.
Wow. Right? It goes right below the bunker. Whoa. Hold on. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's how Helga gets in there. Yes, it is. So Jonas is gonna come in 1950. Whoa. It is. So I guess Noah's gonna find him in here. But I'll have to... No! That is not 1953. Full circle, episode 1. This is it. This is the beginning of that journey, right? That hellish journey the stranger's been through. Wow. Just got transferred to the bunker at a totally new timeline. I mean, it's not new in that sense. It was the first one established in the show. In the cold open. Wow, this is stunning right here, man. Color grade is just... Oh, it looked like he was being watched there. Who's this? Who's this? Look at this. Hello? That's a new face. If it's 33 years, it's gotta be 2052. What a shot.
Willkommen in der Zukunft.
Okay, folks, come on. I mean, first of all, that was a conclusion to one of the greatest first seasons of any show ever. In my opinion, it's easily one of the best seasons of anything. The first seasons of anything, that is. Wow. I mean, most impressive. At no point did I feel like there was some sort of substantial dip. I feel like every single episode, from episode 1 to 10, I got so much out of each episode, right? You know, as I sit here right now, my immediate urge, the immediate inclination I have at this point in time is to actually go and binge this season all over again. Like actually a legitimate binge, like spend a day just going through that first season, right? Unfortunately, you know, time is precious, right? Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of time to devote an entire day or maybe 2 days just to binging season 1 again before I do move on to season 2. But yeah, you know, I do have that urge. You know, I do wish I could have done something like that. But even now, as I'm thinking ahead, in terms of the recording schedule and the YouTube side of things, there's no chance I can actually fit in 10 episodes of this show before I move on to season 2, season 2, episode 1. But, you know, that being said, even though I'm not in a position to do it now, like before I start season 2, I think I'll set it up so after I finish season 2, that I do have a chance to go back and watch season 1 again. Binge season 1, really go through these episodes again, you know, take notes. Because, you know, honestly, even though I might be doing lengthy reviews and post-episode analysis or discussions, I feel like I'm beyond scratching the surface, but I feel like there's still so much that I could be really going into, right? But there's a finite amount of time. You know, it kind of almost always circles back into the themes of the show as well, but there is a finite amount of time, right, that you can spend on each episode in your recordings. But even now, after watching episode 10, I mean, wow, it's a jam-packed episode as expected, right? I was expecting this type of finale, that it has to touch up on so many of these plot points, and it did. And I thought, you know, that musical interlude or the montage at the end was perfection. I thought, once again, the song choice is just perfect. Yeah, you know, I'm gonna have a lot of fun listening to the soundtrack, the original soundtrack, of course, and then, of course, these songs they handpicked and researched for these incredible montage moments, the musical interludes. Some of the most incredible television moments have come out from Dark Season 1 for me. And it might feel a bit crazy to say that, or maybe a bit crazy to hear that, but I've been watching stuff for a long time. You know, I've been consuming storytelling in all of its different mediums for a long time at this point. And, you know, Dark is something special, man. This season has been something special. This story is something special. As you could tell from these past 10 episodes, it's truly enthralling. It's captivated me like nothing else recently. I mean, it's no exaggeration to say at this point, it could become my all-time favorite show. It really could, right? Depending on how seasons 2 and 3 play out. You know, first season, incredible. Absolutely loved every second of it. Had me glued to the screen right till the end. Had the gears turning since day one, since scene 1. Yeah, this is something else. This is really special. But again, you know, I do need to watch season 2 and then season 3, of course. And I say season 3, or I specify season 3 because that's the final season. And of course, you need to land the final season of anything, any show, right? That's kind of like the lasting impact or legacy of a show. In recent memory, some major shows have kind of fumbled their ending or their finale episode. So yeah, it remains to be seen how it's going to end. But I've only heard the most incredible things about this show, the 3 seasons of this show. But as of this point, I could truly see this becoming one of my all-time favorites, if not the best of all time for me. My favorite of all time. The possibility is there. That's the exciting part. I can already see the possibility of that being there, depending on how it plays out and how it continues. Honestly, all it really has to do is just continue on this trajectory of incredible storytelling and, fantastic plot points and twists and, mindfuck moments that make a lot of sense, that are set up intricately. Honestly, after seeing the level of care and intricate planning in these 10 episodes, I am so confident that these next 2 seasons are going to be just as good, and they are going to live up to the expectation I have at this point. Really good material, really good storytelling presents a lot of expectation, and it's done that at the end of this season here, throughout the span of these 10 episodes. Wow. Yeah, I guess maybe I should get into the episode itself, right? Now then, the only place to start here is the conclusion, the grand finale. It appears that indeed 2019 Jonas has now kind of ended up on the path that kind of turns him into future Jonas, who has been officially confirmed, right, at this point. I mean, I kind of had that clocked really early on, I think. I can't remember the exact episode, but there were signs. I had doubts, or not doubts, I had thoughts of it even all the way back in episode 2 because of the transitional hinge, the really noticeable cuts from stranger, mystery stranger to 2019 Jonas, right? Again, it's kind of unmissable, right? It was there. So the moment it was confirmed that indeed Mikkel is Michael or Mikael, then to me it became clear the only other option for a mystery stranger, a future person here, has to be Jonas, that he is future Jonas. And honestly, I don't feel like I've kind of cracked something incredible or anything. I'm sure many of you figured this out as well. And I feel like the writing and the setup, it's set up in a manner that you should be able to figure that out, right? Given the hints and the foreshadowing and a lot of other things, right? Be it the musical cues or the transitional hinge. It's all there. And of course, the physical appearance as well. The hair was quite similar. Once I was on that path, then I was comparing the 2 physical appearances, then yes, there's a lot of similarities there as well, right? And before I go any further, I quickly want to mention this. One of the most amazing things about this show of this first season has been the casting, right? Casting the older and younger counterparts to look like they could easily be the actual counterparts at different ages, right? A younger and an older counterpart. I'm kind of cooling off on Bartosz potentially being young Noah, or Noah being future Bartosz. Because, I got kind of excited in the last episode. I'm like, oh, maybe this could be future Bartosz, and that thought is certainly exciting. But I started thinking about the incredible casting and just how spot on it's been, how on point it's been. Then I kind of reassessed the Bartosz and Noah situation. There isn't much of a resemblance there, to be honest. There's nothing, not even a bit of resemblance, really. And you see in many of the other counterparts, there's quite a bit of resemblance, right? So to go from that to having like almost no resemblance. Now, again, that theory wasn't based on the resemblance at all. It was just based on so much of the setup that, there's so many relationships here. There's future selves and there's present selves and all that stuff. So, based on that, I thought, oh, okay, maybe he's trying to get his younger self on a path that leads him to this, right? But as of this point, if I was to base it on physical appearance, no, I don't think this is future Noah. Bartosz, that is, or I don't think Noah is future Bartosz. In that sense, it's kind of difficult to pinpoint Noah's actual timeline or time period he comes from, right? Because he's been to all of them and he looks the same in all of them. He's the only one that has looked the same in all the different timelines because he's kind of going back and forth, right? He's traveling through these timelines as one of the, I guess, the most experienced time travelers, one of the masters, essentially. I feel like Noah and now Claudia feel like the two that are really in control or really have a grasp on things and how things play out and, prior knowledge of these things. And in that sense, how fitting that both of them are kind of on the opposing ends, right? The light and the shadow. Now, in that sense, I think at this point in time, I think it would be foolish of me to even kind of allocate a side to each. Yes, Noah believes his side, his cause is of the light side, right? Or the side that presents the light. And then he's allocating the shadow, the darkness to Claudia, who he believes to be inhumane. And the people who are from the shadow side have kind of lost their humanity, right? Although, of course, a lot of Noah's actions are things that are kind of explaining the things he's accusing Claudia of, right? Inhumane, losing your humanity, being able to do some dark things. Though I can't accept the notion that, of course, sometimes these dark things are needed. Some of the things they do are of a dark nature to keep a track of things, to keep things in line. But yeah, like I mentioned, I think it would be foolish to pick a side already and, just say, oh, Noah is evil or Claudia is evil or Claudia is good and Noah is evil, right? This is one of the things that was really clear to me really early on in this show. The notion of the gray area. I mean, listen, on the base level, on a really basic level, essentially, yes, the show has kind of tried to establish Noah as this really evil person, right? Though, of course, he himself doesn't believe that. He believes he is on the righteous path, and it's Claudia from the shadow who is evil. I'm still not really sold on that Noah is just pure evil. I feel like I just don't know enough about Noah, so I'm not going to pass judgment or just make up my mind on that character. And in that sense, I actually don't even know enough about Claudia other than seeing, future Claudia essentially recently, and then 86 Claudia, who is still in the early stages of kind of tumbling down the rabbit hole. I mean, there's a lot of unknowns. And, in that sense, Claudia and Noah are perhaps, some of the most intriguing characters of the show at this point in time, of the story at this point in time. And yeah, I'll get into it a bit more later in terms of the things I hope to see or I expect to see or I'm excited to see in season 2. Noah and Claudia, these two characters are perhaps one of the most exciting prospects of season 2 and beyond, right? Really getting to learn about them and their motives and goals. I can try to theorize and anticipate and analyze it all I want, but there's a really good chance that there actually just isn't enough information here for me to go much deeper than that, right? In terms of their motivations and their goals and the path they're on. Sometimes there just isn't enough information, right? And you just kind of have to sit back and watch the next episodes or the next season or the season after that. And I'm sure it's going to make sense. It's all going to make sense. Their actions, their behavior. So I'm really excited for both Claudia and Noah. I mean, Noah is a damn exciting character anytime he's on screen. And again, credit to the actor here. Fantastic acting on display. And he's got this really commanding screen presence. He's almost hypnotic, right? His delivery, the speech, the delivery of the line of dialogue through this actor is really quite captivating, right? It really does grab your attention. Anytime he speaks, you're dialed in, man. You're listening to the things this man has to say, regardless of him kind of, lying or mixing in lies or deceiving or being deceptive, all of that's also part of his nature. From the looks of it, from parts of the setup, you could tell that, deceiving or holding back certain information or just straight up lying to manipulate is certainly part of it all. But, that still doesn't make me feel like this man is meant to be just downright evil. Like I mentioned, all the way back in episode 1, it established even back then that the set of characters in this show are going to be quite nuanced. And I saw that play out over the span of these 10 episodes. And again, I think a prime example of this is the character of Noah, who I'm quite excited about. And I just mentioned that Noah clearly utilizes some of the dark arts, perhaps. And I mean dark arts, not in the magical sense, but like in the sense that, he does know how to manipulate. He does lie. He is prone to deceiving and all of that, right? For a higher purpose, for his goals, for this path he's on. It's also quite likely that Claudia is kind of doing some of the same things here, right? I feel like there's a lot of setup here to show us and depict that Claudia is also kind of manipulating, deceiving, perhaps lying as well, right? But that, again, that doesn't mean she's evil, right? Again, there's something really deep at play here, something quite intricate, you know, this light and shadow. You know, he called it an eternal battle of good and evil, right? I mean, he made it pretty, he kind of delivered that in a pretty basic analogy, right? Good and evil. And again, you have to take note of that he is trying to explain these things to Bartosz, who is probably kind of lost at the moment. And I thought his acting was quite good, the actor playing Bartosz, because you see that even though he is listening, he is kind of on board, there is a sense of dread, there is a bit of unease about him, right? Listening to some of these things this Noah figure is saying. But, you know, in that sense, it appears that he has a new henchman, right? He's kind of roped this new individual in. Now, even though I don't think at this point that maybe that is future Bartosz, I still think there is a connection there. I think there has to be a reason that he's bringing or he's roping in Bartosz specifically. I mean, again, if it's not Bartosz in the future, Noah that is, it could totally be some other relation. I could totally see this actually being some type of relation, right? That's one of the things. That's one of the things I really expect to get even crazier in season 2 and beyond, perhaps. The family tree part of this. You know, the setup of this season, they've made it clear, you know, this family tree stuff, this intricate setup, and just the craziness of it all. I feel like there's so much more to it because there's still so much that remains unanswered. There's so much unallocated parentage at this point, and I kind of go into this in the last episode's discussion. I think maybe the one before that. You know, this character's like Regina, right? Who's Regina's father? Is it possible that it's Trante? There's questions like Peter Doppler. Is Helga his actual father? Did Helga actually father Peter Doppler, right? Because again, there's no signs of a partner or a wife. I mean, I don't mean this in a mean sense. I'm not trying to be rude about this, but you know, it doesn't appear that Helga, especially after now getting in that accident as well, maybe that had quite an effect on him. It doesn't appear that, you know, he's on a path to finding someone and marrying someone and he'll have a child and that child being Peter Doppler. As of this point, it just doesn't feel like that, right? Again, I could be totally wrong and maybe he does end up on that path. He does find someone, but there's just no hints. There's just nothing to allude to that as of this point. There's still a bit of a question mark, even though the show has established that indeed it is Helga. In that sense, it's a bit of a generational thing, right? Kind of things repeating themselves. I mean, in that last episode, they go into a strong possibility of Helga being born out of something else entirely. You know, his mother potentially being raped, you know, assaulted. So yeah, you know, so it's almost kind of like it's continuing, you know. That might not be Helga's actual father, but he's certainly treated him as a son. And like I mentioned, he's clearly a good father to him. He took care of him, regardless of, you know, him knowing if this is his actual son or not. Now, there's a possibility that, you know, Peter Doppler might not actually be Helga's father either, right? Generational level. So let's see. There's the whole, you know, situation of Charlotte's unallocated parentage, right? No parents on that board, right? That I see once again. So it kind of came full circle to episode 1. But this time, of course, Jonas is in that bunker. And I think it's safe to assume this is 2052. He has jumped 33 years. No, he hasn't jumped 33 years. He's jumped 66 years. Because, yeah, he was in the 86 bunker. So he jumped 66 years. And Helga from the 53 bunker jumped into 86. So he jumped 33 years. And before I go any further, how about that incredible scene of young Helga, 53 Helga in the bunker, and then Jonas in 86 bunker. This tear in the fabric of time and space, essentially, right? And they kind of see each other. They can see into different time periods through this portal. And of course, you know, the big twist here being that indeed it's a big old predestination paradox. That future future Jonas, I could say future Jonas now, right? Official confirmation. And, you know, even though I had it clocked a long time ago, the official confirmation, I felt like it still had that gravitas, even though I had it figured out for a long time at this point. it still hit. It still really got me excited. It still kind of gave me those goosebump moments, right? Especially the delivery of it, right? The scene itself is just impeccable. And the whole scene downstairs in the bunker, I mean, you have to give great credit to the actor playing 2019 Jonas, right? Wow, that's an incredible performance right there. You really feel for this individual. I was sitting here and I was like, man, I want to just hug this dude. I really just want to, reach out and hug this dude. You see just how broken he is, how fed up he is, how done he is with all of this insane shit that's going on. And to him, it is just this crazy shit. He called it sick shit, right? Yeah. But, the crazy thing is, this is perhaps just scratching the surface because future Jonas tells him that he's seen things that people should never see. So if he and I think the things are kind of sick right now, yeah, let's see. Season 2 and beyond, it clearly gets much crazier from the sounds of things. And it goes back to episode 2, him in his hotel room. Yeah, even there, it was clear to me that he's been through a hellish journey to get to this point. He's had a rough time, a hellish experience through a hellish future. And that's been confirmed at this point, right? But going back to the acting aspect of this, young Jonas or 2019 Jonas, wow, I thought he was fantastic in that. And, you could see that future Jonas isn't completely heartless or anything. You see it is a bit tough for him to see this young individual who is, it is him at a younger age, right? And he was on the other side, as he mentioned to Jonas at one point, he was on the other side as well. You can see that it is a bit tough for him to, see this as well. You can see in the facial acting, the physical acting, but he knows he has to leave this Jonas in there, right? Because he knows he's not gonna end up dying or anything. He knows that that portal is gonna open up and he is going to go through, and that's how he ends up being in that 2052 timeline, essentially, right? He knew all of that, and he needs him to kind of go down the same path, right? So he can become the individual he is at that time, at that point in time, right? And I'm speaking of future Jonas. Now then, I mentioned this big twist of it actually being this big old predestination paradox that essentially it was future Jonas who ends up creating it in the first place by, destroying it. By trying to destroy it, he ends up creating it in the first place. And that also kind of created this possibility, this portal that Helge, 53 Helge, young Helge, and 2019 Jonas make contact almost, or they do make contact. And, in that sense, certainly you can see the inspiration is there, right? The reference is there. Michelangelo's The Creation of Adam. Yeah, I mean, it's certainly there. Quite unmissable, actually. Now, here's a question, right? I have this thought in my mind right now that I can't quite shake. Okay, so future Jonas does the thing, right? And he ends up actually being responsible for making it in the first place, or creating it in the first place. Now that 2019 Jonas is on that path, slowly he is going to, experience the things that future Jonas experiences, and he is going to become quite experienced and know things and learn things. And at some point in that progression, of him kind of aging up and, kind of reaching the point that future Jonas is at this point in time, as 2019 Jonas is in the 86 bunker, at some point he is going to realize, okay, so my older self, as of this point, he's still in the early stages, but he is going to accept it at some point, right? He is going to be quite accepting of all of this at some point, for sure, right? I mean, he should be accepting of it right now, but it's still just so early days, and he's so broken over all of this, and it's such a mindfuck for him. But once he does, fully just accept it, then he's surely going to ask himself, okay, so my future self said he's about to go do something, right? He is going to realize that his future self was meant to go destroy the whole, right? Yet it wasn't destroyed. Right? He is going to realize this at some point. Again, there's that big question of the 2052 timeline even, right? He's going to interact with these characters and, he's going to get information off of them and how things got to this point, right? You see that there's ash float in the air. Could be snow, but, my first thought was that it's ash float, and you see that there has been some kind of nuclear, fallout, essentially, right? It's quite a dystopian type future, and that was the setup, right? That was my thought the first time I saw Claudia, right? The quick appearance of Claudia in the 52 bunker, I guess, 2052 bunker. You hear the noises outside. It's a war zone essentially, right? But yeah, dystopian future. He's going to interact with these characters and he's going to find out things. He's going to get answers. But, you know, long story short, sooner or later he is going to find out that it didn't work. Does that mean that there is a possibility that the future Jonas actually knew that this isn't going to change things, but he has to kind of follow through on that path? He knows that, you know, going down there is going to be the reason, him setting off the machine, the contraption is going to be the reason it gets created in the first place. Maybe he already knows this, but maybe it's in an attempt to make sure that younger Jonas, the one that's in the bunker right now, who then travels to 2052, maybe it's an attempt to make sure that he does go down that path, and maybe he does have the chance to maybe make a different choice, right? Find a different path. And, you know, maybe there is a bit of a setup there for that in the first time they meet each other, right? On that bench. First time proper, right? That they get to speak to each other. You know, he tells young Jonas, you know, until then, you just kind of have to think over and over about your decisions. And if you made the right one, is it possible that this Jonas, the future Jonas, realizes that he made some type of mistake at some point, and now he's kind of making sure that this Jonas also goes down the same path, but maybe in the hope that he might come up with something else, right? He might not make the same mistake, maybe, right? But then, you know, that possibility is a really slim one given the setup of the storyline, the setup of the time travel mechanics at play here, right? It's almost inescapable. And that's been one of the themes of this, right? Determinism, where everything is predetermined. Everything that's meant to happen is happening or is always going to happen as it was meant to happen. And, you know, beyond that, you know, the inescapable nature of your own nature, essentially, you know, human nature, and that, you know, these characters are not able to escape who they are, you know, and the things they want, even if they think they have an option or if they have a choice, right? And that's one of the points future Jonas is making to 2019 Jonas, and he's so done. He just kind of breaks down. He tells him to stop. He just doesn't want to listen to any of this. And again, you know, that's really fantastic acting coming in there. But then, of course, you know, the really interesting and exciting aspect of this is the fact that there are characters that, you know, don't kind of subscribe to that notion, that they do feel like they have free choice, that they can claim agency, right? You see a great example of it once again. Two characters that are really fantastic together, but they are so opposing, or their opinions or their stance on things or the stance on time is so different, right? And their stance on, you know, free choice and all of that is so different. And I'm speaking of Tannhaus, 86 Tannhaus, and future Jonas, right? You see Tannhaus, he tells Jonas that, you know, he had this feeling deep inside that perhaps he has to fulfill this, right? That he's a piece of the puzzle, that, you know, he cannot stop these things from happening, that his whole life has kind of led up to this moment, right? And that he simply had to do it. And then on the other end, you have Jonas, you know, straight up telling him, you know, I hope to change it. I hope that the future is different tomorrow, right? So again, claiming agency. So I love these opposing notions and stances, yet, you know, they do make a great on-screen character pair, don't they? In fact, that's probably one of my favorites of the show, right? These two together, and the conversations that happen, and just the ideas that are explored through the conversations these two have. It's just one of the most fun and exciting parts of this show so far. But going back to this notion of the loop, it doesn't actually feel like it's like a really stable loop, right? Because you see Noah is certainly, you know, playing his part in making sure things go down the way they're meant to go down, but, you know, it requires a lot of effort on his part. You see that he's, again, deceiving, lying, and manipulating people into making these actions again, right? And making or ensuring that this loop kind of stays intact, or plays out the way it's meant to play out. But then, of course, there's that whole notion that indeed this is how the things played out in the first place, or are meant to play out in the first place, that it is Noah who kind of makes a lot of these things happen or puts them into motion or makes sure they happen. And it's always been this way, right? But yeah, that's the thing about this though, right? There's a lot of characters in this show or in this story that know they are part of a loop, right? That's a really intriguing aspect of this. Oh, and speaking of the loop, it appears that it's been 8 days. 8 days seems to be the cycle or the length of a loop, right? In the different time periods. So I'm sure the number 8 must have some significance. I'm not able to really, I don't know off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's got to be some kind of significance to the number 8 in this case. So yeah, I'll probably have to look into that, or maybe, you guys can, if you know it, or if you've done the research, and I'm sure many of you have, given the intricate nature of this show, I'm sure someone's going to explain it or mention it in the comments. So 8 days, that's the cycle essentially from episode 1 to this date in episode 10, right? And that's another thing, it's a bit of a tangent, but you have to remember, this is my first time going through each episode. So, I try my best to get as deep into it as possible, but, a lot of you are like super fans. I'm sure many of you have seen this on multiple occasions, multiple rewatches, and, taking deep dives and doing research and taking, intricate notes, detailed notes. And I would love to do that. And I hope to do that as well, of course, on my rewatch of the entire show. So, some of the things that you might know or you might have researched and found out, you have to understand that some of them might not be realistic assumptions for me to have at this point, or realistic assumptions to come to at this point. Sometimes there's going to be references that I just don't understand, be it this number 8 or the significance of number 8. And sometimes there are going to be references that I do understand. But, the point being, I'm not able to go research all of these things like some of you guys might have had the chance to do, right? Because I am making content, I am doing a first time reaction to it. So I can't really go that far down the rabbit hole in terms of, looking things up, because of course, spoilers, right? You don't want spoilers. And, I know a lot of you are new to my channel, but for the people who've been around for years, you know how careful I am about spoilers and how strict I am about spoilers. And, the mods on my channel, they're friends essentially. They've been around for a long time. They know how I consume media and the things I consider to be a spoiler. And to me, spoilers are things like hinting, right? Even if you think you're being really sneaky, if you think you're being clever, trust me, this is one of those areas that I am going to, own and say the tiniest bit of hint, it's going to linger in my mind. It is. And even if it doesn't make sense now, at some point, something might happen in the show, in the story, and that thing that's been lingering in my mind, it's going to come to mind, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to connect things before a reveal or something, right? Because of that hint. And that's not how you want things to play out. You don't want a hint to spoil something, right? And of course, guiding is a big no here on my channel. No, I don't like that one bit. Things like, oh, keep this in mind, or keep this thing they said in mind, or keep this episode in mind, come back to this. This is important. No, I'm not a fan of any of that. And if you've seen my Shingeki content in the comment section there, yeah, it's pretty airtight there. You've probably noticed at this point over the last few years that that stuff does not exist in my comment section. Hinting or people talking about or alluding to future episodes, again, that's a spoiler. I know maybe from your perspective it might not seem like a spoiler to be excited about a future episode, but alluding to a certain episode specifically in a comment section for another episode kind of connects the two, or alludes to that having a part to play, or something important happening there. It creates expectations. So yeah, I know some of you might think that my idea of spoilers is quite rigid, but it is my idea of spoilers. That's the thing that matters here. The things I consider a spoiler, right? That's one of the things I should have been clear about in my episode 1 intro, actually. I don't know, I just totally forgot that, there's going to be so many new people coming into the channel. And it appears there might have been a bit of that in the comment sections for Dark. And, there was even a few really rude people that showed up that, tend to think that anyone who's able to kind of keep up with a story and really take a deep dive and be really into it and take everything it's giving you, that it must be fake. It must be, oh, they're just pretending they've never seen this before. Yeah, I mean, a few of those clowns are to be expected, but that's not my problem. If you're used to a certain type of content on YouTube, I've been on YouTube long enough to know the type of reaction content that is out there, and I'm not really a mean person. I'm not that type of person, but I know the type of content that's out there, and I know you're used to that type of content. But it's not fair to come into every single channel and just assume that everyone's going to kind of be the same. Yeah, I remember having to reply to someone, if you came here just hoping to see someone that's just going to be clueless the entire series and just kind of be shocked by every single thing that's thrown at them, maybe you came to the wrong place. I mean, that was up front. That was presented up front in the intro of episode 1, right? The approach I take, the comprehensive approach I take to anything I watch, the approach I take to storytelling, to consuming storytelling. But let's move on from that tangent and let's get back to the episode. So yes, he is in 2052, right? And you see someone is watching him, right? And they showed us earlier that Claudia was in there, in that bunker. So she's probably in that same timeline at that moment in time. And she appears to be watching him from the trees. But even though the trees are kind of really thinned out at this point, there's that, really recognizable stalker shot, right? That's been utilized in this show already. You see future Jonas is kind of watching his younger self as well at one point, same type of shot. You see Hannah is watching Alexander or Boris at one point, same type of shot. So I'm assuming that's probably Claudia, right? She knows Jonas goes through this, right? She knows this. So she's kind of, watching it, seeing how it plays out. But the other thing that has me kind of scratching my head is the fact that this new face I've seen now doesn't appear to be similar or doesn't seem to resemble anyone I've seen. This could be someone's child, right? From the 2019 timeline or time period. But yeah, she said, "Welcome to the future," as if she knew Jonas came from the past. Either Claudia has already tipped her off that this individual is going to show up, or it's just this open knowledge at this point, right? This open book that there is this time traveling thing that's going on in the future here. People come and go. But I feel like it's probably more that Claudia has kind of told her about this individual showing up real soon, maybe. Right? Claudia, yeah, she's got a lot of things going on. She's got a lot of, it feels like she's got hands in a lot of different places. And, you see how she was kind of able to get Tronte on her side. Peter is a bit less trusting of Claudia, but, she presented that notebook. And, those really specific dates, just like Noah presented really specific things or predicted really specific things to Bartosz to kind of, impress him or get him on his side. Same thing's going on here. Claudia used the same thing, the notebook, though, Peter noted that a lot of the pages are ripped out. So that's certainly something interesting to keep in mind. And it appears that, maybe there is a bit of manipulating going on, maybe a bit of lies being utilized here because Tronte believed that it's all about to end and, it's, again, it goes back to Alpha and Omega, right? The beginning and the end. And that maybe Mads is going to live, right? That's the hope Tronte was kind of, clutching to. And that was the thing that Claudia kind of made him believe from the looks of it, from the sounds of things. But of course, us, the audience, knows it's not going to go down like that, right? Mads is not going to live, just like Mikkel is never going to come back. Mikkel stays in 86 and he grows up there. In fact, I see him go to his house. It's a beautiful moment, he's teary-eyed. He kind of clutches on to Ines as she carries him in to his new home. Though, of course, his new home could be something he recognizes as Jonas's house from the 2019 time period, right? So it's kind of like a boy in 1986 dreaming that he's from 2019 or a boy from 2019 dreaming that he's in 1986, right? I thought that was a really great scene. And, this whole notion of kind of being in a daze or living in a daze kind of does fit Mikkel or Mikael or Michael's disposition, doesn't it? You even see in that really poignant scene of Jonas kind of asking Hannah about his father, right? She explained that it was kind of tough to tell if he was being serious about things or if he actually meant things or if he's joking around, and that she really didn't know him all that much. It kind of all fits, right? And of course, it must have taken such a mental toll on Mikkel, right? To grow up like this. So yeah, it all kind of does make sense. And the type of person Mikkel or Michael ends up becoming, maybe, the type of mental effect it's had on him. But like I mentioned a few episodes ago, I do hope to see older Mikkel or Michael kind of navigating through that life, growing up from 86 and on. That is one of my hopes for season 2 and beyond, for sure. I mean, Mikkel was perhaps the first character I really latched onto, right? And then Jonas soon after. So yeah, I've had a soft spot for Mikkel since day one, since episode 1, right? So yeah, I hope to see more of him. I really do. And then of course there's Ines. You see that I finally get that scene of Ines, Grandma Ines, and 2019 Jonas. As expected, the letter changes hands. There it is, right? The endless loop. It's kind of stuck in this bootstrap paradox, right? The letter, there's always going to be a letter. Now that 2019 Jonas has it, it's going to travel 33 years until he passes it on to younger Jonas, right? So yeah, that was great to see. That was a really cool moment. And again, that was clear. I think the moment he burned the letter, then it became clear that, okay, so there's only one copy of the letter in existence at that moment. And that is the one that Ines had, and that's how this Jonas is going to get it. So it was great to get confirmation on that. But the scene itself, I thought it was really similar, right? It cuts to, after that scene, it cuts to 86 Ines in the hospital room and young Mikkel. Similar things going on here, right? She's essentially telling both of them, or reassuring both of them, that it's okay. It's okay to be out of place or out of time, that it's okay to not quite belong, right? To be that outlier, essentially. And, you see that Jonas certainly feels like an outlier, that he's the one that's wrong. I mean, at that point in time, he truly believes that he's the only thing that's wrong here, but no. Everyone is going through something. There's so many things that are going wrong for all of these characters, right? They all must feel like that at this moment in time, or at some moment in time. But yeah, I liked how Ines kind of handled that. But in that sense, I have to look at it from another angle as well. Have I been a bit too easy on Ines? I really do like Ines, especially 86 Ines, and the things she did for this lost child. It really, it really got me really early on. But is it even possible for any character in the show to not have something that's a bit gray about them, right? Maybe I have been giving Ines too much credit. But actually, I'm not trying to say that maybe there is some kind of hidden darkness, but there could be other things that I don't know about Ines just yet, right? I do know that she's the one who calls Noah in to come speak with young Mikkel in the 86 timeline or time period. And, anytime I say timeline, it's just something I'm saying to differentiate the different years. But of course, it's totally possible that she only knows him as this new pastor in town, right? That was established a long time ago as well in Past and Present, episode 3. A new pastor at the parish, that farmer individual is telling Egon Tiedemann. And so yeah, it's possible it's just that. But there is also a possibility that Noah has also somehow influenced Ines, right? Even if she doesn't realize it, it's possible, right? Because Noah knows who Mikkel is. He's always known. He has a track record of all of these things. He knew Jonas is going to show up in that hospital room. He had Helge ready behind the door to take him out. He knows everything. So yeah, there is a possibility that even Ines might have been kind of manipulated and she doesn't even realize it. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, let's see. Perhaps there is more to Ines than meets the eye at this point in time. And you see in the 2019 conversation, Jonas and Ines, she firmly believes that everything happens for a reason, that it was meant to happen. As abnormal as it might seem, it's best to let things just kind of play out, right? And who knows what the future holds. So yeah, her stance is certainly clear on that. And, of course, really early on, she's established as someone who is quite religious. And then, speaking of Noah, there's a really fantastic scene of him and Helge, who's clearly still a bit uneasy. He's still kind of digging he still has some questions. So I like that, 86 Helge still had some, hesitation about this, or he was at least trying to get some answers for some of these really strange things that Noah has kind of, presented to him or opened his eyes to, essentially. I really like that story about the stranger. Right now, I mean, it's really clear to see that they're trying to imply that it is the stranger, future Jonas, perhaps, that goes to see him at some point, or comes across him at some point and actually stays in the room beside him. I guess he kind of rents a room at their house. But that's the thing, though, right? Is it just safe to assume that this is just meant to be in the past, right? Because as of this point, I don't really know the origin of Noah, right? This individual that is Noah. What exactly is his timeline or time period he comes from? Again, by timeline, I don't mean an alternative timeline. It's something I'm using in passing to differentiate the years. Because again, he's the only one who's been shown to look the exact same in all the different years, right? As he travels to them, time travels to them. But yeah, that story of the stranger, I mean, it's really clear they are trying to, allude to the fact that it might be future Jonas, right? But in that sense, once things become that, clear, then there's also the opportunity of a misdirect, right? Let's see. In this setup, it appears that, Jonas or future Jonas or Jonas at some point does somehow kind of influence the path maybe that Noah is on, right? Or it played some sort of influence or had some sort of influence on him, and that his words kind of meant something to Noah after an experience he had himself as well, right? That was one of the things, right? Your past experiences, your past pain, your struggles shape you. That was a point he tried to make to Helga, right? Your pain certainly made you the person you are today. It defines you, but it does not kind of control you, right? It has no control over you anymore. And he also kind of brought up that idea of the eternal cycle of the one. And of course, you see that in 2019 Helga tells 86 Helga that this whole notion of you being the one or him being the one or him trying to defeat evil is all just a lie. He's using you, he's manipulating you. But one of the things I've noted in this show since the beginning is the placement of scenes and dialogue and, transitional hinges and, again, visual cues on screen in the framing and the composition. As he's saying, the eternal cycle of the one, they're showing us Katharina and Marta, right? Sitting at home on the couch. I don't know if that just happens to be there by chance, that was a scene that happened to be playing there, or if there is something I should keep in mind, or I should, maybe dig into further down the line. But here's the thing. I don't think Noah is completely lying about Claudia, right? I think it's highly likely that Claudia is also, like I mentioned earlier in the discussion, that, yeah, she has to use some of the same tactics as well, right? To kind of have some of these things play out the way she thinks they should play out, or again, opposing sides here, right? Light and shadow. In that sense, I guess you could call it Team Noah or Team Light and Team Shadow, Team Claudia, and each one kind of has its own members, right? I guess you have the stranger, future Jonas, who is kind of like the right-hand man of Claudia, I guess. In that sense, maybe you can even have a bit of a trinity, right? You have Claudia, stranger, and Tannhaus, right? A lot of things kind of go in that trinity or through that trinity, right? Or are possible because of that. But, I guess on Noah's side, you have Helge, right? You have Bartosz now, you have Noah himself, and perhaps some of these backers that Noah seems to have maybe, or association he seems to have. Again, that car, it's quite an unmissable car, a Rolls Royce. I mean, it's either that he has some backers in high places, this shadowy organization I brought up that has a stake in all of this, right? Control of time travel. Of course, you would expect that people do have interests in this, right? Beyond maybe just Noah and Claudia as well. But yeah, it's possible that maybe he's using some of this knowledge he has to acquire or accumulate this wealth, right? And he's kind of presenting himself in this image, right? He has a really specific image he wants to present. But yeah, like I mentioned, I do think there's got to be more to this than just Claudia and Noah, right? There's got to be more people involved in all of this. I do, that's one of the things I still firmly believe. There's got to be some kind of organization involved in this. And then, of course, in that sense, it appears that Bartosz knew how a lot of these things are going to play out. His reactions to things are really interesting, right? Quite notable how muted they are, actually. Again, going back to, Claudia showing up at the family home. Even now, him reacting to Marta, who clearly kind of spun the story. So it seemed like maybe it was her who didn't want this, and she's the one who rejected Jonas. I don't know. It kind of felt like that to me, right? So she could kind of appear a bit more innocent. Though, of course, Bartosz's reaction there was also quite notable or noticeable. It feels like maybe even the altercation was something he knew about. Maybe Noah tipped him off on that as well. Jonas is going to come, you guys end up fighting, or that kind of thing. So yeah, you have to keep an eye out on Bartosz, especially from this point on, given the fact that he's got the book in his possession, the book of dates, right? So yeah, it's almost as if he's taken over for Helge as his new henchman, his right-hand man, but certainly someone he thinks is a bit more capable than Helge. And again, it kind of goes back to that notion that there could be some type of relation here, even if I don't think Noah is future Bartosz. There's got to be a reason he goes to Bartosz, right, in this case. And then, I mentioned Marta. That whole story about the light and the shadow really reminded me of that school play, right? Again, the focus being Ariadne's thread and, Theseus and the Minotaur, the labyrinth. But, that specific portion of the play was about Ariadne and her duality, essentially, right? The thing that really stuck out to me was the fact that no matter who the person is, this is the individual who had the makeup, right? That kind of resembled the injuries, the lacerations that both Eric and Mads and or Yasin as well, all three of them had, right? He was explaining how no matter the background, no matter who it is, everyone has a foot in the light, as the other is in the dark or in the shadow. So I certainly think that is going to play a part, that setup, that people might have hands on both sides, or might have stakes in both sides, right? And beyond that, you could be even more specific about that, given that it was about Ariadne and Marta is playing Ariadne. So is it even alluding to Marta at some point, right? As of this point, Marta is not, people like Marta and I was going to say Bartosz, but Bartosz is certainly all about time travel at this point. He knows all about time travel. He knows the details. He knows about future Jonas. He knows about 2019 Jonas turning into that individual and the things he's going to do. And now he has a list of things, or a list of dates as well. But, you have people like Franziska and Magnus and Marta that are not in on it, right? And there's a strange moment, right? As the lights are flickering, the big moment, you see the ad for the Rider bar kind of flashes on screen as Magnus and Franziska are just kind of hanging out. And once again, she has a sweater on, and it's got the cube, it's got the flat circle, and it's got the pentagon, the 5 sides. Now then, the 5 sides is maybe starting to make a bit more sense now, because now I have 4 timelines, or not timelines, time periods. I've got 53, 86, 2019, and again, it's unconfirmed, but it appears he is in the future. And if it's 33 years beyond 2019, it's got to be 2052, right? 33 years. So that's 4. So does that leave a possibility of a 5th, right? Now, again, I'm just kind of basing this off on the Pentagon, but I feel like in a show this intricate, there's hints and clues all over the place, be it just a sweater or a hoodie that someone has on. But like I mentioned, those shapes are kind of unmissable, right? And the connotations of those shapes, the cube, the flat circle, and now the pentagon, the 5 sides. Meaning, if I go off of that, there is the possibility of yet another year coming into play at some point, right? And if I was a guessing man, I think I've already kind of touched up on this as I was kind of theorizing about Claudia being in 2052 in that, quick glimpse they showed. And I brought up the point, if they can go beyond 2019, as Jonas has done, as Claudia has done, why not, why not the other direction? making it 1920. If you go 33 years into the past from 53, that brings you to 1920. So, that was the thing I was saying, right? If you are able to go that far into the future, 33 years beyond 2019, why not 33 years beyond 1953? Right? That would give me the 5 points of the Pentagon, 5 dates. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this. Maybe I'm attaching too much importance to this tiny clue, perhaps, on a hoodie. But I don't know. Maybe. Let's see. Let's see how it plays out. But if, say, that is a possibility and there is a potential 1920 at some point, does that mean that maybe young Noah, the story he was giving us about the stranger that came to their home to stay with them for a night or two, was that potentially a young Noah in 1920, right? In that timeline or time period. So back to my initial point. Yes, I was talking about the two teams that are kind of set up here, Light and Shadow. So let's get to Team Noah. Team Claudia then, right? So of course you've got Jonas, her right-hand man from the looks of it. So they certainly spend quite a bit of time together. So that's exciting, this Jonas and future Claudia spending time together. And then of course, older Jonas and future Claudia spending time together. That's the thing about these time travelers, right? The aging process here is something a bit different, right? They're not quite aging as the people that don't time travel at all. I think that much is clear. But I like that setup though, that both Jonas and Claudia might have a lot of effect on each other. That, they're kind of intertwined. Their path is intertwined almost. But again, if you're to believe Noah, he thinks, this Jonas fellow is being manipulated. He's been manipulating this whole time and is going to continue on that path and that cycle. But as of this point, you can't really take anything Noah is saying or Claudia is saying at face value even, right? You certainly can't take everything Noah is saying at face value because, of course, there's a lot of shenanigans, perhaps, a lot of different things going on here. Information being really specific information being shared and other information perhaps not being shared. Him trying to set up certain individuals on opposing ends to be in a really specific light, painting them as the evil or the bad guys in this situation. But the thing about this final setup there in the future, now the exciting part is how much time is Jonas going to spend with these people, right? You would assume he's going to be a captive, right? Then the one girl knocked him out. Regardless of the timing of it, it's clearly an important part in his growth on this path, right? And it appears that Claudia knows this and she wants this to happen, and she was kind of watching on as he kind of gets captured. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much time he spends here, and then at what point does he start traveling back to the 86 time period or 2019. As of this point, I'm not sure if his first appearance in episode 2 was the first time he shows up in 2019 in this cycle, I guess, the cycle for us, the audience. Because, him going to the hotel, Regina's hotel, it felt like that was the first time he's checking in to that hotel, right? So I don't know. Let's see. But yeah, going back to Team Claudia, you see that she brought in Tranta and Peter, Tannhaus, of course. But no, here's the thing about Noah and Helge, right? It appears that even Noah must have known that this is how things are meant to play out, and this is how maybe this Jonas goes on the path to becoming, future Jonas or the stranger, right? I think he must have known that he's not going to be the next individual to actually be strapped into that contraption. And then that means he must have known that 53 Helge, is going to come to him in the 86 bunker. But the fascinating thing here is, it appears that he actually does, he's going to find 53 Helge, who seems to have no pain at the moment. I don't know if that's an oversight or there's something else going on here, but this young child doesn't seem to have any pain from this insane experience, this murder attempt. And it's really tough to look at those lacerations, but yeah, he seems to be fine. I don't know if that's, I don't know, maybe there's something more to it. But from the looks of it, it looks like he is going to end up taking him back to 53, to his actual time period, right? I'm speaking of young Helge, who is in the 86 bunker now. And he grows up there, and then of course he ends up working at the power plant. All of this is clearly part of this, never-ending chain reaction, right? That it's all meant to happen. So I guess Noah probably knew about this, right? That Jonas is about to time travel to, this time period beyond 2019 to 2052. And this is how he's going to meet young Helge. Because he wants this Jonas, 2019 Jonas, to go through that portal, right? And switch places. Well, he didn't switch places, but, Helge certainly came into the 86 bunker. He needs and wants him to go through that portal. And then, of course, he goes down that path that kind of turns him into future Jonas, the stranger. And then at some point, he's the reason of this existing in the first place, right? Predestination paradox. So he needs him to do all of that. So he needs him to go through the portal as well, right? Because he needs that hole to exist. Noah, that is, right? He wants these things to kind of remain the same. He wants them to play out the way they are meant to play out. In that sense, Noah is such a tricky character, man, to kind of gauge. A lot of these things are contradictions almost. The things, the established things, some of the things he's saying, some of his motives. So that's one of the reasons he's one of the most fascinating characters of the show at this point, alongside Claudia as well. And then how I mentioned that the school play and having one foot in the light and one foot in the shadow kind of goes back to the thing Jana Nielsen was saying. There's just as much light in this world as there is darkness. That really tender moment of her and Ulrich before he goes missing, and now he's kind of lost in the past. Ulrich, man, he caught a beat down. Yes, Ulrich has done some terrible things, but I do like Ulrich as a character. Listen, man, if you only liked characters that are just wholesome and only have goodness in them, and there's no capacity to do human things, do wrong things, you're not gonna have too many intriguing and exciting characters, right? Nuanced characters. So yeah, I do like Ulrich. I do. Yes, I don't condone some of his actions, but you see, those are his convictions. The reasoning behind some of these things he's doing or has done now is to save these children and save his own son, right? That's his thought process in all of this. And again, yeah, he cheats on his wife. He's not a good person. I'm not saying he is, but he's certainly a good character. He's a great character, much like how Hannah also is a great character. But even then, even Hannah, she is a great mother, right? She is a caring mother to Jonas. That's like the one thing she has that isn't kind of like tarnished almost, that relationship she has with Jonas, that loving motherly relationship. But then, of course, going back to Marta, right? She's dated both Jonas and Bartosz. I mean, I don't know if she kind of officially dated Jonas, but she's dabbled, right? They've had these romantic run-ins, so she's got a foot in both light and shadow, right? if you're to go by that setup that Jonas is on Team Shadow now, according to Noah, and Bartosz is Team Light. Marta's had a foot in both teams, essentially, both sides, and that was kind of the setup, right? In that school play. It was a play by Ariadne, who is played by Marta, right? And again, it's also kind of about human nature as well, right? The duality, but also specifically maybe about Marta as well, right? Maybe there's so much more to Marta that I don't even know about yet. And the role she might end up playing in all of this down the line, let's see. As of this point, there could be a handful of characters that might end up playing a substantial role in all of this that I don't even know yet, right? But they might come into a bit more prominence in season 2 or 3, perhaps. Let's see how it all kind of shapes up and plays out from this point on. And lastly, I think I'm gonna go into some of these other characters and their setup and their potential storylines going into season 2. I mentioned Ulrich, yeah, lost in the past. I really don't see how he's going to get out of that situation. Unfortunately, it is repeating, isn't it? Just like Mikkel had to end up staying in 86, it looks like his father, Jonas's grandfather, is going to end up staying in 1953 and grow up there. But then, as I say that, I'm realizing, unless of course he dies, right, in that time span from 53 to 86, is it not possible that Ulrich from the 53 Ulrich in custody at this point in time, is it not possible that he could still be alive by the time I get to that point in 86 that has Mikkel there, young Mikkel, right? It's possible, but as of this point, the only thing that is guaranteed is that he is stuck. He is lost in the past. He is stuck in that prison, in that jail cells. So I don't know. Let's see, right? But there's a possibility there, right? That's kind of exciting, actually. Him potentially living out from 86 on. But of course, the catcher is that he would be an old man by that time, right? Much older, if he was even ever to get out, right? But yeah, if you think about it, the possibility is there that he could live till 86 until Mikkel is there. You know, young Mikkel, the one he knows, his son Mikkel, right? That's exciting. That is really exciting. But again, I don't know, man. It's a long time. 33 years is a long time, and he's in prison at this point. So let's see. But the small, slim possibility is there that there could be an overlap, right? But you know, as I'm saying that, I'm also thinking, as of this point, all three versions of Helge are in 86. 53 Helge just showed up in the 86 bunker. 2019 Helge just tried to kill himself, the 86 Helge, but unfortunately 2019 Helge ends up dying in this attempt. But once again, you see that Helge kind of, you know, survives yet another assassination attempt, and he lives on. But again, you know, this car crash must have had a bit of an impact on him, right? Mentally, perhaps. But yeah, the one thing I know is 2019 Helge, that's that. Right? He died, and the thing is, no one even knows who this person is in the 86 time period, right? So that's crazy that all three Helge are there in the 86 timeline at the same time. Now, of course, I've seen this happen for Jonas as well, right? Future Jonas and 2019 Jonas, two versions of Jonas. It's going to happen for Michael and Mikkel, right? Because Mikkel's going to grow up, right? And he's going to be Michael. He's going to have Jonas. And then at some point, he's going to find out about the Nielsen's having a child, and that child is Mikkel, and he knows this is coming, right? There's actually possibility of a lot of that, right? Two versions. But here it's really unique because you have three Helge in the same timeline at one point, in the same time period. And then, of course, you have Charlotte and Peter Doppler. They reconciled. But they happen to be in that bunker as this is all going down. So is that going to play any part? And speaking of Charlotte, she has more than enough knowledge at this point. She knows time travel is a possibility. She's seen it. She's seen Ulrich in the 1953 newspaper clipping. She knows he ended up in 1953, and all the things she's kind of, you know, researching and come across, you know, a 33-year cycle, you know, 66 years, all of that. 33 years times 2 being 66. She knows all of this. She has more than enough to believe that time travel is possible, and it's happened to a colleague, and it might be playing a part in many of these other things that are happening, right? So Charlotte actually is one of the most exciting prospects of the next season as well. You know, great character. I really do like Charlotte, and you know, in that sense, is it even possible that young Charlotte from 86 could maybe somehow remember that encounter she had with Jonas, 2019 Jonas, asking her about the time and the year, or sorry, the date and the year, and talking about bringing someone back from the dead. You have to get to them at a younger point. I feel like out of everyone else, she might be the one who could maybe recall something strange like that happening to her, right? And then kind of connecting that to Jonas, right? And realizing, oh, holy shit, it was Jonas who came to me in that forest at that point, right? 2019 Jonas. I mean, her husband, Peter Doppler, was Jonas's therapist, right? So yeah, I think it's highly likely that she knows Jonas or has seen Jonas before in 2019, right? And it's a small town, right? So yeah, I think it's possible. I think that's about it for this one. I mean, you know, I tried my best to kind of get into all the things I wanted to talk about, but I'm sure there's still some things that I wanted to talk about, but they kind of slipped my mind at this moment in time. But you know, that's the nature of this show. It's so detailed and intricate. But yeah, you know, if I remember anything, I can always kind of go into episode 2. You know, part of me actually kind of wants to do a special kind of, you know, season 1 special type thing, kind of going through the whole season, extended review type thing before I get into episode 2, but I don't think that's likely at this point. Again, like I mentioned, maybe after season 2 I can do a binge of season 1 and then go to season 3. But yeah, that's it for this one. So once again, for the final time in season 1 or for season 1, thank you for joining me for this. You know, if you enjoyed that, please consider dropping a like. Consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. You know, I noticed that after episodes 1 and 2, there was a bit of a drop off. There was a lot of engagement in episodes 1 and 2. And then there was a bit of a drop off. And then, you know, subsequent episodes, the engagement kind of really dropped off in comparison to the earlier episodes, at least. But you know, I'm thankful for anyone who's shown up. If you're interested in full length, consider checking out the Patreon page, or perhaps even early access to the next episode right now. That would be season 2, episode 1. Consider checking out the Patreon page. The link is in the description and the pinned comment. Also, there's a link to my social media if you're into that. That's about it for this one. Thank you for joining me, as that was one of the best first seasons of any show ever, I think, in my opinion. And I'm so excited, really, really excited for the next season and beyond, and really excited to continue this incredible story. Yeah, it has the makings of something that could become one of my all-time favorites, if not the favorite show of all time. It's there. Possibility is there. But yeah, thank you for joining me, and thank you for your time as always. And I hope to see you again soon for the next one. Until then, take it easy.